So just see. Yeah. And there it is. Okay. So I'll come up with an awesome intro for this podcast too. I feel like there's gonna be randomly. It's gonna be like I'm gonna try to use like the Knights of the Old Republic, like the Battle for Mandalore music and stuff.
That'd be cool.
It's something like that.
Cool.
You know, like really focus in on it, and then out of nowhere, it's just gonna be you going "fuck."
That'll be great.
It'll be awesome. But I'm gonna come up with something really creative. I should just add SpongeBob in there, like just randomly, just add SpongeBob or like Invader Zim or something.
Fuck.
I'll just find an audio clip from this podcast in particular, just throw it in there randomly. You're probably gonna say pussy or fuck or tits or something, so
can switch it up each week.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, will be a very quick edit to do that. I'll just leave an open slot, and we just insert a certain line every week.
You'll leave an open slot and insert things, huh?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's how we'll say it. Did you guys check out the new slot that we inserted our you know what's in?
Oof.
Hey, we have the explicit rating. Like I said, we can say whatever we want. Fuck children. No, I'm just kidding. But
that can be taken.
Sorry, that's Alex Jones. That's Alex Jones talking, not me.
Oh.
That guy is fucked up.
Yeah.
But alrighty, here we go. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Mando Mondays here from the Brick City Blockade. That's right, this is a brand new in-depth look at our new favorite show from a galaxy far, far away that can be found on our friends over at Disney Plus. Thank you, Andrew, for allowing me to be a user on said account. You are such a sweet man, and you deserve kisses for everything.
Of course, it just makes it easier. You can have up to 6 people on the account. I have 1 slot left. That's about
It's a lottery.
But it just made sense, and it's only $7 a month, so it's not
much.
Bad. It's not bad at all.
No. So on this show, Mando Mondays, we're going to break down everything happening in the world of The Mandalorian, which can be found on Disney Plus. If you haven't subscribed to Disney Plus and stuff, you have just been living through Reddit, and that's not the life that you want to live. You want to go on Disney Plus, and you want to get it ASAP so that you can enjoy this. And just to let you guys know, this show is going to be spoiler heavy. We aren't warning you. You got to listen to this, and I guess this is the one warning. Why the hell are you listening to this if you haven't watched the first 2 episodes? Number 1. And number 2, we're going to be swearing a lot on this podcast. Yeah. You better believe it. So enjoy it while it's here. Sitting across from me, you heard him already. He was explaining why there's going to be an open lottery, an open bounty on the last section of his Disney Plus account. It's Andrew Gerrish, of course, the host of Words of the Whills and Chalk Talk. What's up, Andrew?
Hello there. Going pretty good. Very excited to talk The Mandalorian with you. And more as it goes on with, because there's usually going to be a lot of seasons with The Mandalorian. They can do easily maybe 4 or 5 seasons of The Mandalorian. But it's going to be fun talking Mandalorian with you and everything going forward.
Yeah, I'm super excited. You know, I have to admit, you, myself, Sean Michaud, and Scott Inch, we all sat down on the group chat and we're like, I think we got to do this. You know, it's so important. And going back to Rebels Recap, you know, big shout out to Brian Fontaine, the entire crew over there at 6 Scale Scavengers. When they were at the podcast and we were part of the podcast network name at the time, Rebels Recap was such a big hit and you guys loved it. And we said, you know what, the recap stuff is great. We have the opportunity to really kick back, look and see what happened in these shows that Star Wars is giving us and really break it down in depth in terms of what you guys noticed and really what we noticed. Maybe you're going to learn new things. Maybe you're going to pick up on things so that you go back into your account and say, I got to go back and see what happened. I got to see what the Mando did himself. So, Andrew, I'm going to kick this off, much like Rebels Recap, and I'm just going to break down the original plot for the first episode because for people out there, it's just going to be a nice little mind refresh, you know, a mind wipe, much like C-3PO had multiple times, even though all that pornography left his mind, unfortunately, that he had
Did
saved
it?
into his backup drive.
Did
You
it
know what?
though?
R2 was the one that stuck himself into the Millennium Falcon, though.
Well, R2 was a slut anyway, so.
Jeez, gross.
So wasn't Lando. He probably tried to fuck what's her
Oh,
face.
L3?
Yeah, he
Yeah, I
definitely
think,
tried to fuck. Either
yeah.
that or he did fuck her, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? We will find that out probably in a separate soul. Hey, you know what? Disney Plus. There you go. There's your next show. The Adventures of Lando Calrissian.
Renee agrees with me that he fucked L3.
Ah, there we go. That'll be a new poll over on Twitter, and then. But anyway.
Did Lando fuck L3? Did he also fuck L3 after he got the Millennium Falcon back in Return of the Jedi?
Oh, that's a good question. Sticking it in a hyperdrive. That's a
why
little
do
dangerous.
why do you think his boy oh what's the guy's name? Neep or whatever?
Yeah, Mr.
Why do
Mike
you
Quinn.
think he was all giggly? He
I
was
don't know.
getting in
That's
on
Mike
it.
when he comes up.
It was just a giant orgy.
We can ask Mike Quinn if that actually happened. Mike, if you're listening to the podcast, there's your next question. Here's your first question when you come on the Brick City Blockade. Was there an orgy in the Millennium Falcon at any point at any time? But here, Chapter 1, The Mandalorian, first episode. Chapter 1 is the first episode of the first season of the American web series The Mandalorian. Thank you, Wikipedia, for telling us the obvious. Based on the characters created by George Lucas. Arguable. So let's get really. I just like mentioning George because maybe Uncle George is listening. 5 years after the fall of the Empire, a Mandalorian bounty hunter collects a bounty after a scuffle exchange in a bar. He meets with his guild leader, Grief Karga, who mostly has low-paying bounties which will not cover travel expenses. Looking to get a big bounty, Karga gives him only an address of his next client who wants the bounty to be private, and we get to learn that this character is very mysterious and has something in particular that they're looking for. The client, who uses Imperial stormtroopers as bodyguards and who are pretty fucking beat up, gives the Mandalorian a vague target to bring alive. The only information that he is allowed to give is that an age 50-year-old and last known location. After receiving a Beskar, a special medal given to him by the client as an armor upgrade, the Mandalorian meets with the armorer who melts the metal to give the Mandalorian their shoulder armor. The Mandalorian then travels to this desert planet and meets a native called Cool, who wants to give him help. I think I said that right, but Star Wars will correct me.
Yeah.
He runs across a bunch of different missions. In particular, he has to learn more about himself as an individual on this planet, and he's introduced to the concept that, you know what, although you are so all and mighty, Andrew, not you, but the Mandalorian, because I'm throwing the say, hey, Andrew, you gotta stop it. Although that you're a Mandalorian, and there's that respect level that comes, and the character of Kuel does a great job of saying, you know what, I respect you. You're a Mandalorian. You're a warrior. But you got to dig into that, man. You're not just a bounty hunter. You come from Mandalore, which has so much history and everything else. So, Andrew, knowing this plot, what is the one thing about this episode that really stood out to you? And what was the one thing about the Mandalorian when you first saw him in action in this first chapter? What was your reaction right away?
Easily something that doesn't seem to be. It's its own like small universe. It's completely different from the movies. Right from the opening shot when he walks into the cantina, that's easily, in my opinion, still my favorite scene.
Yeah.
Is him walking up to the bar. Probably, well, was he gonna put a straw in the cup and then drink from it?
Yeah. I feel like that's like against the new straw laws that say you cannot use plastic straws anymore. Like I feel like they're making fun of that. Who knows?
But I thought the bounty was going to be on those two guys that were messing with the other guy.
Yeah.
So, and then he walks over, puts the bounty hollow, and we know he was there for him. That it just showed how badass he was,
Yeah.
or is. He's not dead, um, and well, not yet. Um, and it just got even better from there
Yeah.
with seeing his survival tactics and how he carries himself. Because he's completely different from Jango Fett or Boba Fett
Oh,
or
totally.
any other Mandalorian. Um, Kinda like a little bit like Pre Vizsla, just
Yeah.
more silent about going about his stuff.
Yes.
Um, but those who are skeptical in thinking that it's not going to look that great with it being a TV show,
Mhm.
it it looks like it's one of the movies. It's that well done. And
Mm.
Dave Filoni had the first episode to direct, and he got everyone on board, in my opinion. He
Yeah.
did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I think the one scene for me, Andrew, and I think you're 100%. I think Filoni got everybody on board with this. And the other thing is, too, I think Jon Favreau did a great job. You can tell that he was really looking not just to have a role in Solo, but because he had the role that he did, he was really able to capture that Solo slash Rogue One essence with this show. That opening scene just reeked of Solo in such a good way. And I just love that we opened up. I think this is great. This is the first time, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time that we've ever opened anything in Star Wars with subtitles in an alien language being spoken,
Yes.
which is
It's also
amazing.
the first time in anything Star Wars, which I didn't mind that they
Yeah.
didn't use a long time ago in a galaxy far far.
Yes. Yes.
And they didn't use the cliche like Clone Wars, where
Mm-hmm.
they had the Star Wars theme and stuff.
Right. Right.
They have their own separate thing for Disney
So
Plus, and
nice.
I like how they have it.
Yeah.
It fits for that universe, for the TV universe.
And we talk about it so many times, Andrew, just whether it's in our group chat, whether it's on a podcast. How are they going to separate the episodic films and the trilogies from the product being placed on Disney Plus? They have clearly done that, and they've done it in a way that doesn't really throw off the audience. I think in terms of Solo and definitely in terms of Rogue One, not seeing the title crawl because it was a film, at first we were kind of like, oh man, this is different. I'm not sure if I like this. But they were kind of testing the waters to see,
Mhm.
okay, if we do have something like Disney Plus, how are the fans going to react to it? And in all honesty, I think if we didn't have those non-crawl style openings with Solo and with Rogue One, I think this would be completely foreign to us. So I
Mhm.
actually appreciate Lucasfilm doing that with the side, the spin-off films because it kind of prepared us and it allowed us to understand that these entities are separate from the Skywalker saga.
Agreed.
So I don't know. And the one scene that really stood out for me, other than that, is when we finally see him bring back the Beskar to the rest of the Mandalorians, and
Mhm.
we see the Mythosaur skull
Yeah.
molded above the door, and it's like, oh my goodness, the Mandalorian mercs must have freaked out. All the Mandalorian mercs that
Oh
we
yeah.
know, I mean, they must have just been like, oh my god. And for Star Wars lore, Dave Filoni is not afraid to get in depth with it,
No.
give us every little bit of history, a history lesson in this stuff. And I was freaking out in that moment. I'm like, how long, other than with Sabine Wren in particular in Star Wars Rebels, how long have we been waiting to see live action form Mandalorians actually discussing the legacy of Mandalore?
Mhm. Ever since a Mandalorian was discussed in anything,
Yeah.
when Boba Fett showed up in the holiday special, that's
I can't believe you brought that up, but I appreciate it.
old John Favreau wants a new holiday
Hey,
special.
I think that's great. I'm like, hey, you know what? Go for it at this point.
Yeah,
Go for it.
it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Especially with how the Mandalorian has played out at this point,
Yeah.
and Favreau's style too. How is he going to perform that task in particular? Andrew, the other thing I think that's important with this episode is that not just with the Mandalorian itself, but I have to say, one of the things we always focus on in Star Wars is, do the effects make sense? I think the Mandalorian ship is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love the design of it. I think that the whole idea of him trying to take on this, obviously restoring his armor to the traditional Mandalorian
Mhm.
Beskar, focus with the shield, with the padding, with the helmet. This is something that he's trying to restore in himself. And his ship, even though it's made of scrap, it has that Beskar look to it. So it's amazing that we're seeing that progression with him. The ship works, and I have to admit, the practical effects, the puppetry
Mhm.
is just yes, yes. Every moment that I see this, I'm like, this is what Star Wars is about. We want the realistic effects. We want everything to feel like the original trilogy, and it did. It did at times.
Well, that's the big thing for this because it's only 5 years after Return of the Jedi, so
Yeah,
it will still have to feel like the original trilogy for the time being until, like, say, Mandalorian slowly starts to reach, like, maybe the first talks of the First Order, like
yeah,
Rising and stuff like that. Then you can get into that, which I don't think it will, because where I see a lot of the Disney Plus shows going off of Mandalorian, it's going to talk about a lot of the in between stuff, like
right.
Kenobi. It's going to talk what he was doing in between 3 and 4.
Yeah,
Um, the Cassian Andor series is going to talk what he was doing right before Rogue One.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a lot of this stuff is going to be interesting, and I wouldn't be surprised if Dave Filoni is at least an executive producer on a lot of the live action ones
yeah,
for not just so he has more credit with live action stuff, but he knows his Star Wars, so it
yes,
would make sense for him to be there. So, because I think Kathleen Kennedy put Dave with Jon Favreau because she knows Dave Filoni knows his stuff, so it
yeah,
will just help Jon Favreau in the long run, just like
yeah.
it will for everyone doing whatever series.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's going to help Filoni in terms of learning from a guy like Jon Favreau,
Yeah,
who's developed films like Iron Man and who has worked on, has helped correspond with some of the Marvel films, in
yeah,
particular with Kevin Feige. That's what they want Dave Filoni to get used to. The Mandalorian in all aspects, and I can see it just from this first episode. And a little bit later, we'll get into the second episode in particular. But just from this first episode, I can totally see that Bob and Kathleen are preparing Dave for the film
yeah,
aspect at some point.
yeah.
This touches on film. This I'm trying to find the right wording. Dave's style in which he's encompassing just through the first couple episodes of The Mandalorian are encompassing exactly what we've seen in terms of how filmography is done, the proper use of cinematography to capture moments and to use lore and stories that have been developed to portray this galaxy far, far away. Dave has the experience on the animation side and with
Mhm.
development of story. Now he's getting his experience with live action, and that's so important. And I think they are prepping him.
Yeah, easily, especially with him directing the first episode,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that's easily the biggest episode to direct for TV or
Oh,
streaming
huge.
service, whatever.
Yeah, if you can knock the pilot out of the water, if it, everybody will always say, well, it's always the climax in the story, it's always where where the biggest moments happen. No, it's always in, does the pilot hit? It's like the first time you go on a date. How are you the first night on the date? Are you impressive? Are you not? I know Andrew is probably very professional and very, very respectful on his first date. I know I
Absolutely not.
wasn't. I know I
Absolutely.
wasn't, but I know our girlfriends would totally agree with that said statement too. But it's, you got to knock it out of the park the first time
Yeah.
because people notice, and that's the one that sets the standard going forward. That's what this first episode really did.
I mean, look at a little film called Star Wars. It wasn't because of Return of the
Yes.
Jedi that everyone loves Star Wars, it's because of Star Wars.
Yes, correct. And it's all starts there. It all starts there. So
With the prequels, it was probably Revenge of the Sith, but you know.
right. Now, let's answer in particular. We're heading towards the elephant in the room with the first episode, but I
Yeah.
really want to get your thoughts on, and this was the one character that really stood out for me. And I think, like any IG unit, we may see them return once again. They're never down and out. We don't know what the Mando did with him, but IG-11, I was super,
I
super
was too.
impressed with.
I for the life of me, I couldn't tell which part was CG
Yeah.
and which part was animatronic, because I know they used a animatronic for IG-11,
Yeah.
and he was fantastic. And it's cool to see like how they like act, because other than that, we just got Empire Strikes Back, and he was just IG-88 was just standing there. So we didn't know what their personality was like. We didn't know that they could actually like talk or anything like that.
Or shoot a
And
blast like that.
yeah, and it's really cool. Well, granted, we had to fight IG-88 in Shadows of the
That
Empire,
fuck.
but which, to be fair, it is kind of like how that
Scene
there,
unrolled.
yeah,
It was so funny. I was watching that scene in particular between the Mando and IG-11 having to take on all of those gangsters, and I was looking at it, I'm like, oh my goodness, this feels just like that episode, that part of Shadows of the Empire. I don't except you got an IG unit on your side. Like
yeah.
that's the whole difference.
I hated that level.
Oh, I think we can all agree. The entire fandom that's listening can agree with us on.
But it was really cool, and I can see another IG unit showing up.
That'd be cool.
Um, I wouldn't be surprised if I always forget his name, but the one who voiced IG-11,
It was Takini, right? The
yeah,
director.
Takiti, whatever his last name is.
I know it's
But
always a hard last name.
I wouldn't be surprised if they have him voice another IG unit, because
That'd be
it
awesome.
makes sense for them to all kind of sound similar
They
in a
should.
way. Um, and it would be cool. And, well, we're getting a little ahead of why.
I'm moving there. I'm moving there because listen, this is the elephant in the room when it came to the first episode, and I think it took all of us because these are the kind of things that you thought you'd see in spoilers ahead of time that people would be releasing. This thing was kept under wraps real tight because when this scene happened in particular, it was like holy shit. And there was a little bit of a teaser early on with Werner Herzog's character. A certain individual came into the room. Later on, we find out from screenshots and whatever else, the emblem that was being worn on the individual's uniform matches that of Camino. So there's some cloning possibly happening. I theorize deeply, but we are exposed for the first time in The Mandalorian of all things to basically what seems to be almost a baby Yoda. It's Yoda's species, and we'll get into it a little bit later. But Andrew, what was your first reaction to this? Because mine was, holy fuck.
Not gonna lie, when Werner Herzog's character was talking about um, the bounty, and he said there's 4 digits, I'm like, is he gonna say like Thanos?
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be Ahsoka. Um, and when the said that the person was 50 years old, I mean, it makes sense, because she
Yeah.
was a teenager in the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars. So I'm gonna give a little thing about the Clone Wars, because it
Yeah.
was always
Yeah.
said that Clone Wars was only three years.
Right.
I was watching Sam Witwer's Twitch stream.
Yeah.
He was playing Fallen Order. He's got information from Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni said the Clone Wars was 7 years.
Interesting.
So The Clone Wars itself was 7 years long.
Wow.
So, because of all the storytelling with the
That's
Clone Wars and
true.
everything,
And then the
it
films
makes
added in.
it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That does make sense. That does make sense. But
So
and
by
yeah.
so by the end of the Clone Wars, Ahsoka, because she's roughly 15 in the Clone Wars, so
Yeah.
by the end, she's at least in her early 20s. Then,
Right. Right. Yeah,
so
that additional time on. Yes, correct. But a
because
30-year period, yeah.
yes, because where we are with the Mandalorian, with 5 years after Return of the Jedi, is 50 years after the Clone Wars.
Yeah, so it would
So
line up.
yeah.
And that's interesting. But I don't know. I guess the one thing about it at first, and it's funny because I've been watching The Mandalorian with my dad, and he's somebody who for years has been calling, and I wouldn't say he's necessarily like a Disney hater, but he's one of those people that remembers seeing Star Wars in theaters, or, on opening night, back in the 70s. And he was like, you know what? It was so different. George had something so different, so practical, so universal that he had in that. And he's like, I've kind of been waiting for that, and that's typical. My dad's in his 70s. That's what they were used to in terms of that style.
Mhm.
And I have to admit, when that moment happened in The Mandalorian, he was like, holy shit, they're taking risks. He's like, they're taking risks. They're doing things that George would have done.
Yep.
That's what Dave did. He did something that George would have done,
Mhm.
which was, you know what? Let's give this a shot. Let's expand the canon a little bit, which I think is what they're doing with this. But let's take a deeper look into that.
But yet, when the Last Jedi does that,
I
it's
I
all
know
up in
I know
arms.
it's up in arms. My
Just
dad liked the Last Jedi. He liked it
I'm
because of the
not
risk.
talking about your dad. I'm talking about the
Talk
other.
about my dad, damn
I'm
it!
talking
No, I'm just
about
kidding.
the other fucks in the Star Wars community.
Thank you. Thank you for defining them as fucks.
I mean, I could call them cucks too, because they probably are.
I knew the rage was coming. I knew it. I knew this would happen. I love it. I love it. That's what we're all about. But yeah, that
Boycott episode 9.
what was the gif that you sent me before all this? Your anger makes
Um,
you
your,
powerful.
your hate makes you powerful.
Which I think we'll get into a little bit later here.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, episode 1 for me, I think hit all the marks. Andrew, what do you think?
yeah, easily. And I wasn't surprised that it caught me right away. Um, I figured, I'm like, if episode 1 doesn't catch me, probably 2 will.
Yeah.
But no, as soon as that cantina scene happened, I'm like, okay, this is a different Star Wars. This is for the older generation of Star Wars fans, like the original trilogy and the prequel.
Yeah.
Doing that,
They fucked. That's what you're
yes.
saying. I
No,
love
they played patty cake.
they play patty cake. Never heard anybody call it that. That's an interesting interpretation of that, Mr. Gerrish. I love the sound effects. That's what's going in the intro right there. That sound effect right there. Oh goodness! So
Just full force.
full force. No, but I mean, listen. Heading into episode 2, Andrew, what's your take on this going forward? I'm letting you lead episode 2 because there's just so much going on after. Literally, from where we left off on episode 1, I have to say, they flawlessly transitioned right into the next episode.
It honestly felt like it just picked up right after episode 1, which it did. It was a slower episode, I'll say, for
I agree.
that. It definitely slowed down, which you don't really get with Star Wars, and that's good because you get more character development out of the Mandalorian.
Mm.
And the detail that I missed the first time watching it is when he turns around and looks behind him, you can see the um, Trandoshans jump across the canyon.
Yeah.
That was a cool um, shot, and I wonder with his armor, is he gonna slowly turn it all silver, or is he?
Yeah, it seems like he wants an all Beskar outfit.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the silver is pretty cool because Django had the silver and blue.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Um, but I like that it was a slower episode. I can probably see where it might go for episode 3.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I have a feeling he's going to find out what they're doing with Baby Yoda, and he isn't going to give up Baby Yoda. He's going to,
So,
like, in a way, take it in and
right,
protect
right.
him. Because if you remember in the trailer, he walks out of that place and starts shooting
Yeah, that's right.
stormtroopers. So,
Right. And we haven't been introduced to Kara's character yet in
nope.
particular. We haven't met literally almost half of the other characters
Mm-hmm.
that are in this series. We have yet to be introduced to. So that development is probably going to happen as well.
And that's the thing I like about it. Did they say specifically what planet that he was on finding Baby Yoda? And we're just gonna call him Baby Yoda because we don't know the name
Yeah,
of
we
the
don't know the
species.
name. The child. The child.
Yes.
That's what that's basically where that's at. But yeah,
Well,
I
that's
mean
what episode 2 was called anyway.
it was called The Child, which is a great name for the episode. It's very mysterious. It doesn't really give away much at all. You know what? There's a sandcrawler on it, and there's fucking Jawas who are little bastards. So
I'm sorry, I loved that part.
it was fantastic. We've never seen that before. We see the Sandcrawler in A New Hope. We see it play itself out, and we're like, "Oh my goodness! Like, what is this? This is so weird." We think that they just, pick up scraps and then sell them to junk traders and whatever else. These little fuckers are going around. They're
Mhm.
stealing your shit, and then you got to negotiate it back. And they put up a
Or
fight.
kill them all.
There were so many moments when he threw the one Jawa off the top of the sand. I was
Yeah.
laughing my ass off.
When the first shower got disintegrated, I was like, "Oh fuck, that's what that weapon does."
No disintegrations.
So that's what Vader meant.
That's what Vader meant.
I'm sure if it was Tusken Raiders, Vader would have been fine with it.
Yes, Vader would have been there. Destroy them. They killed my mother.
Well,
Mommy, come back.
if you read the comics, he does travel to Tatooine
He
just
does.
to fucking kill the Tusken Raiders just because he's bored. Just because he's bored.
Oh my
And
goodness.
then there's one
Charles
Tusken Raider.
why?
There's one Tusken Raider he let live, go back to another village. That Tusken Raider talked about Vader. They built a statue for Vader, put that Tusken Raider up, burnt the statue with the Tusken Raider on the statue.
Star Wars is so fucked up sometimes, but
Yeah.
but it's so great. And literally, this second episode of The Mandalorian, just there were so many moments. I think that were very serious, very serious. Some of the stuff he had to go through. We saw very much the warrior side of a Mandalorian, which was so cool. He had to achieve the egg, which I think was so great because the Jawas played it up as like some holy thing.
Yeah.
And then they end up getting it and cracking it open, just fucking eating it. So it's he's just like, what the hell? This is what I fought for?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Now,
just.
was that creature that he fought, was that the same one from Attack of the Clones?
No, it was very different. At first, you know what? I'm going to say this. I want to hear what your thought on this is because I sat next to my dad and I said, holy shit, is this going to be a crate dragon? Like, is he going to be achieving the egg of a crate dragon? I was like, that you want to talk about lore. That would have been sweet because
we've never seen a crate dragon.
No, but the only time was in a lot of the legends of Luke Skywalker stuff about Luke, slaying a crate dragon to be able to, achieve areas within the Force and whatever else, like going way back into legends. And I think for me, if it was a crate dragon, I would have said, this is definitely Tatooine. This is definitely Tatooine if that's the case.
Yeah.
I've only known Jawas on Tatooine.
It would have been cool if it was a crate dragon. They might save something like that for like the season finale or something like that.
They could.
To really like solidify that he's a Mandalorian. Like that's
Yeah.
his final test to get like his full like silver plated armor.
Oh, the
Uh,
last piece of Beskar or
and
something.
then it cuts to another location as someone listening to a radio comlink, hearing about a Mandalorian killing a crate dragon, turns around as Boba Fett.
Oh man. Laying the predictions down. I like it. I like it.
It would be interesting, and it would be a nod to those being like, did Boba Fett survive? Because Legends, he did. Canon, we don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And on more of a fun note, just in terms of what we've seen with the Mandalorian so far, and really to be honest with you guys, why don't have a big thing for chapter 2 to talk about? It's because basically the entire time in the thing he's trying to protect the child itself,
Which he doesn't really need protecting at all.
No, we see the child use the Force.
Yes.
And we're like, holy shit. This is legitimate now.
And my theory with that, because I talked to you about it.
Andrew's theories tonight.
And my brother had a theory that I'll mention as well. My theory with that is the reason why the cloner, because he's wearing Camino cloning stuff.
Yep.
They're trying to see, because I'm pretty sure it's said that Yoda's species is Force sensitive regardless.
Yeah, correct.
I think they are trying to clone the baby Yoda to see if they can clone Force sensitive people, i.e., Emperor Palpatine,
or Rey,
or Plo Koon,
or Rock.
No,
the Rock was touched by the Force, Andrew. It was lifted by Luke Skywalker.
No, the Rock touched the Force, and then the Force became a thing.
Is this like the chicken came before the egg kind of talk? Like
yes.
The Rock touched the Force, therefore the Force became a thing.
The Rock touched the boulder, and then the boulder could move.
I like that. I like that theory. I mean, it's almost evolution without getting into religion, and I like it.
I mean, talking about Jedi and Sith is religion, so
here on the podcast it is. Here on the podcast it definitely is. But yeah, it's so fascinating to see where we're gonna go into. We're only a few days away here from on Friday in particular, seeing what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And on a fun note here, I want to say this: we've already seen 2 memes come from this show already, and one is the I'll just self-destruct. I'll just initiate the self-destruct, which I think is fantastic.
I like how that was the only outcome he could think.
I know.
Is to blow himself
up. It's very much like a K2SO move. That's what I liked about it.
My brother's theory is if Baby Yoda is a clone of Yoda specifically.
Yeah, what's Scott
think? Well, he's thinking it could be a clone of Yoda specifically. They were doing experiments to see if they could harness the Force or something like that. And the public and the cloning guy put a bounty on the baby itself to kind of cover up the experiments that they've been doing.
Ooh. Scott. You were once the master. However, I think you earned that role. With that theory, I will forever be the Padawan if that's the case.
I mean, he does have Qui-Gon's lightsaber.
You keep fucking saying that,
but he does.
I know, and I still have yet to battle him, and that must happen. I mean,
I have Anakin's, so technically I'm still the apprentice.
Yes. I think.
Even though I keep beating you in our lightsaber duels.
That's because you keep going for my weak spot, which is my legs.
I mean, it's the easiest part. You're taller than me. I'm obviously going to go lower.
Oh my goodness, Dave Filoni, you need to make a series about Brick City Blockade. Like you legitimately do and just have that opening scene be Andrew fighting me, and then just me collapsing to the ground because he hits my legs. Like that's. And then it's the George like dun, 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 dun. We should do that. We should totally do that.
I mean, we could before we see Rise of Skywalker.
Get it out on Instagram and out on Twitter and Facebook before anybody goes into the theater.
Yep. But yeah, episode 2 was a slow build to the fight with the rhino creature.
Rhino creature. Yeah. It really was.
There wasn't a name for it, so it's just the rhino creature.
Yeah. And then I have to say, I absolutely love Nick Nolte's character, Kuel. And when he says that line,
I've spoken.
I have spoken. I feel like I'm going to start saying that at work too. It's like I'm going to say something and be like,
I already say it to Renee.
Oh boy, how is she taking that one?
She says it back to me. So
it comes right back at you for that one. I just heard her. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, so 2 episodes into The Mandalorian here on Mando Mondays. Now, there is a section of Mando Mondays that I think we're going to have to include, and it's kind of that section that it's kind of like with the podcast, like when Andrew and I in particular are trying to figure out what's going on in the Star Wars fandom. I just want to have this in here on Mando Mondays because it is Monday, it's the beginning of the week, and we're trying to figure out, new Star Wars news may have come out. We're starting to see things on social media. I want to start doing like a Monday focus on things that have happened across the fandom over the weekend in particular, just at the end of the show. Just because it's Mando Mondays, it's our first podcast of the week that's going to be out to the people, just kind of recapping everything. And I think this week, Andrew, you sent out a message to me today, and there's a trending hashtag happening. And
it's not trending anymore. But
it wasn't. It's not trending anymore. But
I don't think it was actually trending, but I did see it.
It's trending in my mind because I'm fucking pissed off about it, and I wanted to save this, and I'm gonna come up with maybe called Mustafar Monday at the end of the show, because the burnt up anger has to be released, and like you said during the podcast, your hatred makes your anger makes you powerful in particular. So, Andrew, the hashtag is called what?
Boycott Rise of Skywalker.
Let's vent.
Because Disney killed Star Wars. It's dead.
I love your sarcasm when we're sending messages. But the Star Wars fans want to say what they want, Rob.
It's fucking dead. They killed it. The Mandalorian doesn't count. It's not Star Wars. It's War Stars.
It's just like, folks, wake the hell up. Wake the hell up, people. Rise of Skywalker's coming out. Okay, here we go. Here comes Robin's venting session right here. This movie's coming out in December, correct, Andrew? We are going to be sitting in the theaters. I swear to fucking God, if I hear anybody murmur anything about Last Jedi out in that parking lot, I am going to be mad because it's like we're heading into a new film. JJ is back on the screen. Don't start comparing this thing to Last Jedi when you haven't even seen it, because there's going to be people.
I'm just going to do it to piss you off.
You better not. My audio system here by screaming. Cue me up because you like it when I get mad. But Andrew, I'm going to say this to you. If you try to do that, fuck you, because I know deep down inside you are a wonderful soul. You are a wonderful human being, and you do it just because you like to get a laugh out of it. And I know that. And you know what?
No, honestly, every time I've seen a Star Wars movie down here, I've heard nobody complaining about anything from it. Except for maybe a few people that have slight issues with it, but they don't make it their life's work to try and ruin it for everybody else.
And that's what these people with
that's the thing
boycott is.
I don't understand. If you don't like it, why go and fucking watch it?
Why give Disney the money then?
Exactly. It's like It doesn't make sense.
John Campea and Christian Harloff talk about it all the time. Ken Knapsack talks about it all the time. If you don't want to consume that style of Star Wars, don't give it the light of day. Take on what form you want. We say it all the fucking time, Andrew. If you want to read
Exactly.
books, read the goddamn books and stay out of the theaters.
Yep. Hell, play fucking
Fallen
Fallen
Order.
Order.
Yes. Now, I know we're going to do a separate little thing of it, but you have jumped into the game already. Just give the folks just a quick recap of what you're thinking so far.
Of the game itself.
Yes. Just a quick one because I know that we're going to do something separate at some point here.
I beat the story in like 3 days. It's easily so. I'm not the biggest Force Unleashed fan.
Which surprises me.
I didn't like how much of a bitch they made Vader and Palpatine look.
I've never heard that term. I like it.
I mean, okay, he fucking makes Palpatine his bitch, which doesn't make sense because Palpatine is the strongest Sith Lord in the history of Sith Lords.
Yeah.
Vader is Anakin Skywalker. He's the chosen one. He's Jesus.
Essentially.
And then there's Starkiller, who is, I'm going to say it, a Gary Stu.
A Gary Stu, yeah.
Isn't that pretty much the male form of a Mary Sue or whatever?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would argue with you on that one. So I'm curious to see what the Blockade listeners are going to say because
they can come at me all they want, but
I think some would agree with you though.
He's absolutely perfect. He has no issues with anything except for being a Jedi, which Rey has that issue.
Is it a problem to be a Jedi, Andrew?
It can be.
I think it is. I think if you're not Sith, then you should get the fuck out of here.
I mean, I can see both viewpoints of the light and dark side.
Right.
Both have their strengths and weaknesses, and
of course.
But anyway, back to the Fallen Order. The other thing I don't like about Force Unleashed, it made the Force a superpower.
Okay. All right, I can see what you're saying by that.
The Fallen Order treats the lore with respect.
Okay.
And it adds more to not only just Order 66.
Right.
This is about 5 years after that.
Mm-hmm.
But it adds more to what other Jedi were doing at the time.
Oh, that's cool.
Because Cal Kestis was a Padawan, which his master, this will be interesting, his master was a Lasat.
Really?
Yes. And it's very rare for Lasats to be Jedi.
Guys, this is Jedi Fallen Order spoilers right here.
I'm sorry.
No. I say at the beginning that this is going to be heavy spoilers anyway. I'm just letting people know.
But if it's going to be a real spoiler to you, you do encounter Vader at the end. And it's played perfectly. It shows the fear that Vader brings with him, especially with the Inquisitors.
Yeah.
Specifically the second sister, because,
You feel for her. That's what a lot of people have been saying.
What?
Oh, boy. Look who's chiming in over there.
Eat your nerds, and I have spoken.
There it is, folks.
But you get more in depth with the Inquisitors of how they became Inquisitors.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. I'll go more into detail on it when we talk more about Fallen Order.
I'm excited to hear
But it's easily some of my favorite Star Wars stuff, video game wise.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can see the video games touching more of after Order 66 as well as the Kenobi stuff.
That's great.
But it's interesting because you see what happened to Dathomir after Order 66. You see what's becoming of Kashyyyk.
Wow.
And it's really interesting.
Yeah. It's the areas of Star Wars that we were pretty much shown, other than Dathomir in particular, from my understanding, the areas that were kind of shown in Revenge of the Sith and all across the galaxy that were being dramatically affected by Order 66, but the fallout of that in particular, we're
Yeah,
moving away from the Republic and into the Empire and how that is affecting the entire galaxy.
yeah. The other big thing is one of the parts of the game
Mm-hmm.
you play through Order 66 when it
Oh
happens.
man.
So like
Ooh.
you're interacting with the clone troopers, they're like having fun with you, joking around.
No way.
Then the Emperor comes in, says execute Order
Oh
66, and then it happens.
no. Wow.
Cal then was like 12, so
Oh,
he was young, but the cool thing about his master is he's using like 20% of the force. He's using 80% of just his mass
that's
itself,
crazy.
but just bodying the clone troopers. Um, but some of the stuff they don't pull punches with the violence in
Yeah.
Fallen Order. It pushes the teen rating to its limit with Star Wars.
Uh-huh.
Um, the only issue I have is the second sister is flying a TIE Interceptor, and it's 5 years after Revenge of the Sith.
I
But
don't think the TIE Interceptor was in production then, unless it's a concept one.
I mean, it's the only one you see, so it could be something like that.
Could be, yeah.
Because they did that with the Inquisitors. Like the Grand Master had the TIE Advanced,
Right,
uh,
right.
and so on. The Ninth Sister has like the Rogue One TIE Fighter, like on Scarif. She has that one, and yeah, it's.
Wow. So
We'll go more into it.
yeah, and I'll just to all the blockade listeners out there in particular, Andrew will give a more in-depth look into it. I definitely want to get Scott Inch's insight into it as well as he's playing through it, and Sean Michaud is going to be playing it down the road here.
But
So
but you did see the Vader clip I
I
sent you.
I
What
did.
what did you think of it?
I think it's the first time that I've seen really just the absolute, and maybe this has changed across time ever since the prequels, and especially with Lucasfilm today. We see the Vader Immortal stuff through Oculus and through the VR experience that they're doing, and then we see stuff that's happening. There was some uh, production stuff that was discussed, and obviously that really took into form in particular when we got into the comic book. Vader Down, just the raw brute power of Vader after Order 66, that transition from Anakin Skywalker into what was really, even though conflicted at times, the real true Dark Lord of the Sith in that case. And that clip alone, I looked at that and I was like, that is the canon Darth Vader post Order 66 that I read in the Darth Vader novel. The original Legends one,
Yeah.
that happened right around the same time, and I think that it hit that mark perfectly. He was so sinister. He felt like a bad guy in that, and even in Rogue One, he didn't really feel like a bad guy. He was Vader. He was Vader standing before Krennic. Wasn't as tempting, but at the end of Rogue One, what the
Yeah.
action that he took, that's what I saw here. And I appreciate it. And I think this is the way they have to present Vader going forward.
Yeah. And the thing that I liked and the detail of it, he didn't have a life bar.
No.
When you went to fight him, he has. When the final boss is so strong, he doesn't even have a life bar.
Oh,
But
goodness.
I will say this: Cameron Monaghan, who played Cal Kestis,
Yeah. And yeah.
he played the role perfectly. He definitely respected the Star Wars mythos.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the same age as you,
That's fantastic. I love it.
so he grew up around like the prequels and stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. So,
That's awesome. That's awesome. And
but
and there's so much of that in the Star Wars fandom, individuals who grew up. And it's funny, it's always with the prequels recently. Those are the people that want to be involved in a lot of this.
that's the thing with a lot of my issues with said boycotters, a lot of them are ones who grew up with the prequels. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so you're taking your experience when you got shit on for liking the prequels. You're doing the exact same fucking thing to the
Yeah.
people who like the sequel trilogy.
It's disgusting. It just doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. But I mean, we'll put a cap on that one for this week.
But
We'll
we
see
do
what
have
happens.
to talk about Disney Plus as a whole.
Yes, we do. We do. Andrew, number one, I said at the top of the fucking show here, you were gracious enough to allow me to become one of your inner Sith
Yes.
relatives on Disney Plus in particular.
Yeah.
And I know you keep checking in with me. Hey, have you explored this yet? Have you done this? Have you done that? And I appreciate that. And I'm really starting to get into it now. Like I'm starting to go back in through what Disney Plus has to offer. I've been rewatching season 4 of Star Wars Rebels at night, which has been fantastic. I again, the one thing that I will say that I do want to do is that I didn't pick up Star Wars Rebels until the end of season 2, and I never really had a chance to go back and watch season 1 in
Oh,
season 2
really?
to see that progression happen.
Okay.
So that's like on my bucket list of things to do, and of course, watch the Clone Wars all the way through. It is on my bucket list of things.
Especially when it's, is it January Clone Wars drops, or
Yes, correct. So we're getting close.
yeah, around, you'll want to get on that.
I'm gonna look at on that very quick.
Um, but obviously,
What are your initial thoughts? How are you liking this thing?
Honestly, when it launched, obviously there was bugs, which is
Of course.
expected. There's gonna be bugs regardless. It's a new app. Um, I am thoroughly impressed with all the content that's on there. Like, yeah, there's a few movies that are missing because they have contracts with Netflix.
Yeah.
Like The Last Jedi, it's coming the day after Christmas to Disney Plus. Solo is coming in July.
Yeah.
Like, you get all the Disney movies from like
way back,
from Snow White to like now.
Yeah.
And you get original series like The World As Jeff Goldblum Sees It, or whatever it's
my
called.
mom's loving that.
I saw the first episode. I loved that it was just all about shoes.
Yeah.
I haven't watched episode 2, but it's about ice cream. I'm interested to see what he has to say about ice cream. But The Simpsons are on there. And those who are saying that The Simpsons edited episodes are edited or anything like that, I watched a few episodes of The Simpsons and I haven't seen any censoring. Hell, I watched The Simpsons movie, and you remember the part where Bart's skateboarding and it shows his little ding dong? It still shows his little ding dong, so
they ain't caring.
So, like, I've noticed a lot of people had issues when going to like watch one of the older Disney movies where they have like an explanation, like, in this time this was acceptable, it's not now, blah blah blah. It's like they kind of have to put that because it's like they have to own up to their racist bullshit that they had back in the day.
Right. And at the time when Walt Disney was developing a lot of this stuff, it was part of that culture. It was part of that understanding at that time. To refuse to understand history is not something that Disney wants to do. What they want to do is to say, you know what, that was that time. That was that time in history. We've moved on from that. But we're warning you that these concepts and these ideals are stuff from the past. And it only makes sense to do that. Don't hide history. Recognize how wrong it was and warn people to say, this is what you're getting into.
Exactly. And they have fucking gargoyles on there.
I know. I just saw that.
And they have the original X-Men animated series. Fantastic Four.
What did Scott say about the original X-Men series? He's like, oh, I've got those on DVD.
Yeah, he has them on DVD, but it's like, cool, but I didn't.
Scott's
they
always
have
got a thing for that.
they have every single animated series of Spider-Man.
Which is great.
From well, they don't have the '60s one, but they have
Not
the
the
one
same.
from the '80s to the newest one,
Yeah.
which is kind of based on the Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they have Fantastic Four. They have Iron Man. Um, Literally anything you can think about with the Marvel animated shows and the movies. Again, some of the movies aren't on Disney Plus yet because they're still on Netflix. Black Panther is coming sometime next year. Same with the Ant-Man and the Wasp and
They're
everything like
getting
that.
all caught up. Yep.
Yeah. And my big thing is the Star Wars movies themselves, the
Yes.
original six.
McClunky.
They look fantastic.
Yeah. They did a fantastic.
They cleaned them up so well. Like I love the Blu-rays of them, but they were just too bright,
Gotcha. Yeah.
especially in the original trilogy. They were too bright in certain parts,
Mm-hmm.
specifically like in the carbon freezing chamber. It's way too bright. It should be a little bit darker, in my opinion.
They overmastered it. Yeah.
They they fixed it. They made it darker. They fixed the lightsabers. That's my big.
Yeah. You told me that. Yeah.
They
I
fixed
noticed that with A New Hope in particular.
they fixed the lightsabers and they look so much better.
Oh, so much better.
And they they even fixed Luke's lightsaber in the Millennium Falcon when he's training
Yeah.
the probe droid, because it's always just been the white glow, or in one of the Blu-ray cuts, it was green for some reason. Then I went back to white. It was weird. And
Huh.
then there was one where it was purple, and it's like, what?
Does Luke not know what he wants to be?
No.
Huh. He's bleeding a crystal in a different way.
Yes. And the
I feel
biggest
pretty. Oh, so
the,
pretty.
the biggest thing that came out of this, I have no issue with it,
Neither do I.
but so many people do. The Greedo scene, specifically, there's one extra thing of dialogue, and it's McClunky. So what?
I think it's funny.
I do too.
McClunky.
McClunky.
I'm gonna name my dog McClunky.
Your dog's gonna hate you.
Oh, I know my dog's gonna hate me, but his name's gonna show up every time I watch New Hope. And he's gonna be so happy. He's gonna be wagging his tail like crazy. You know, I don't know. I don't know. Just saying.
I'll essentially be my dog when my parents and watch Lady and the Tramp.
Oh
They
yeah.
call, because my dog's name is Lady.
Oh,
So,
there you go. So every time, yeah, when they call Lady,
um,
it's great.
but
That's
yeah,
great.
Disney Plus as a whole, honestly, like, don't get me wrong, I like Netflix, but all the content that's on Disney Plus is there forever.
Yeah.
So there's no time limit for them to go away.
Agreed.
And those who are upset about the Marvel Netflix series that were canceled, they're probably going on Hulu, because Disney
Yeah.
worked out something with Hulu where their more mature stuff is going on there.
Right. Right. Which is that whole ESPN plus package that they're trying to put
Yeah.
together. Hulu will have that stuff. Yeah.
But as a whole, easily a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
Disney
I'm at a
Plus.
10 out of 10 too. I think that it's hitting all the marks that it did. I think the marketing for it has been, even on TV, even when you're watching TV, they're hitting the Disney Plus marketing hard through Verizon and through these other companies.
Mhm.
And I just, there's one kid in the Verizon commercial and he's wearing a Mandalorian t-shirt. And I'm like, where the fuck did that kid get that shirt? I
Yeah.
want a Mandalorian shirt immediately.
Well, you can probably get them at Hot Topic, but there's really none up in your
I don't have
area.
I have a Hot Topic in the mall over here, but I ain't got no hot cash.
Well, go shopping there more and you'll get Hot Cash.
I know I need to go buy some more Funkos. That's what I'm learning. The more that the Mandalorian ones come out, I'm gonna be buying those.
I mean, I know the Black Series Mandalorian figure comes out on Black Friday.
Ooh.
So.
Ooh, I think I know what I'm getting. I know what I'm getting. I mean, my Mandalorian, I've got my Mando Funko.
I mean, I just.
Stuff, but
Well, Renee got it, but Commander Kenobi in their clone trooper
I know that.
um, armor. That one's really hard to find. They
Yeah.
had like 3 at
It's a
Walgreens.
Walgreens exclusive.
She said, "Do you want one?"
Yes. Put it aside for me.
You said yes.
Because I'm finally coming down to see you.
Yeah, after how long of me trying to get you to come down here?
Let's save that conversation for another part.
But we've kind of been rambling a bit.
Yes. Yes, of course. But hey, it's not a podcast from Brick City Blockade unless we have that in particular. So
exactly.
Wrapping up here on Mando Mondays, it's not a podcast until we do a little thing we like to call
Plug time.
Plug Time. Andrew, where can the good people find you across social media?
You can find me on Instagram at Andrew62592, Twitter at Gerrish1. I'm getting better at Twitter.
Somewhat. Yeah, you are.
I'm just retweeting a lot of stuff. So
that's the way to do it.
And on YouTube at Commander Nerd. This week I just took a little break. I'll probably be reviewing another one of my Ultra Sabers soon.
Nice.
I need to review more of them. Yeah.
Yeah. With silent sigh.
But yeah, that's where you guys can find me. Can also follow the page for Words of the Whills. Yes. And other than that, maybe if you request me, I might approve you. I might not. We'll get there when we get there.
We'll get there when we get there. I love it. I love it. I love it. You guys can follow me over on Twitter at Mr. Vote Tweets. Check me out over on Instagram at The Official Vote. Hey, www.brickcityblockade.com for everything happening at the podcast and in that galaxy far, far away. Patreon to support the network. TeePublic to rock the network. I got a couple holiday designs in the work here. They're going to be coming out after Turkey Day. Those will be those Saturday, Sunday exclusives that I discussed earlier on a couple months ago about to stay tuned for. So keep your eyes peeled. There may be a little bit of a promo thing coming out next week about what those designs might be. And hey, coming up at the end of December, heading into 2020, we want a fan design. We want to put one of your designs up on TeePublic as well. Start designing what you would like. Come up with your own Brick City Blockade, a take on this. Put your signature at the bottom. We'll put them up on TeePublic for you guys to get your design out there. Stay tuned for more details on that. And of course, Starlight Children's Foundation. It's that time of year. Starlight always loves to reach out to the hospitals. It's the giving time of year. So please head on over to the website. Check out our Starlight Children's Foundation link. Donate what you can to help kids in hospitals around the country bring smiles to their faces when they are in remission, or if they're just having a couple, hospital visits here and there, and they have that Starlight unit come in, and it makes such a big difference when they get to sit there, play the Wii, and just take their mind off of whatever pain or maybe just the discomforts that they have with being in the hospital at that time. We love supporting Starlight. We're here for those kids, we're here for those families, and we're here for you this holiday season. So please reach out. It's all about you, the fans, here at the Brick City Blockade.
And also, come tomorrow, we'll be a month away from Rise of Skywalker.
That's right. 1 month away. I get to sit across from this sexy mofo right there.
Across, you're sitting next to me.
We'll see how the seating goes.
The seating is assigned.
You mean I can't sit in your lap?
No. Well,
I love how you look at Renee. You're like, wait, what? What? He's getting all hot.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
All right, that's our line here at the Mando Mondays. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. I like that. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning into Mando Mondays here from the Brick City Blockade. For Mr. Andrew Gerrish, this is Robin Vogt signing off, as we always say. And hey, you know what? I have spoken. May the force be
with you. And I've spoken.
Fuck! Fucking shitballs. Fuck.